Perfect. All right. Welcome to Agency MVP Live. My name is Samantha, and I'll be teaching today's class. This month's topic was all about calling and following up with all of your households here in MVP. So, we spent the first week talking about calling leads, how to work your leads call view page, or all of them here in MVP. So, that was the first week. And then last week, we talked about working your prospects in MVP. And then today, we're going to talk about some best practices for time management. How do I get through all of these pages? How do I do really everything that's assigned to me, right? So that'll be today's topic, what we're talking about. I did not cover working your cross-sell opportunities this month because that's what we talked about last month, the month of April. So if you need to refresh that, feel free to watch any of our recorded webinars or any of our training videos. But today, we're really going to focus on just time management. I think that's something that a lot of people really struggle with, is understanding or creating a plan of being able to accomplish everything every day, right? Raise your hand if you feel like you struggle with that. I feel like a lot of people do, especially in this industry. I mean, you can be pulled in every direction every day, right? Some days you have too much to do that you can't even finish it with, even if you had 24 hours straight to work, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it goes in the insurance world. So let's talk about kind of some best practices for you guys. Go ahead and use the Q&A box and let me know kind of what you do in the agency. What is your responsibility? Do you do the service work and you contact all of the leads, get permission to quote, you do the quoting, you call, follow up, close the policies, make sure you have all documentation needed when you close a sale? Do you work the cross-sell opportunities? Do you do policy reviews? Do you do just telemarketing? What do you do in your agency? Wendy says all the above. Just fun, right? Trying to do all of that and then some, right? So a lot of people have the title of like producer or LSP or sales agent or whatever, right? So your main responsibility is sales, right? But you have a lot of other things on your plate that you have to make sure is getting done. So, I mean, it happens to everybody. For me personally, my title might have been producer, but I also was doing the service work and the marketing and all of that stuff as well too. So I completely understand trying to work on your time management. I mean, obviously we want to make sales. That's what we're here for. It's probably how we make our money, right? So if we can figure out how to manage all those responsibilities and still hit our sales goals, that's going to be better for you, right? More money in your pocket. That's why we work, right? We work to live. So let's kind of talk about this and what we do. So I talked about kind of where to start when you come into MVP based on your role previously. Those of you that are a jack of all trades, you do a little bit of everything. When you log into MVP every day, it takes you straight to quoted, and that's where I would start. What would you do if it's first thing in the morning and you've come to this page? What would you do first? Use the Q&A box and let me know. What would you do first? Spicy, thanks for answering. Anyone else? What would you do first? If you come into MVP, what would you do first? Barbara said call all the quoted. Anyone else have any thoughts, feedback? What would you do first in the morning? All right, so something that really helped me, and I love talking about this because I think it made a really big difference, is I'm going to call my quota prospects first. That's where I start. I log into MVP every day, and that's exactly where it takes me. But how do I know that Jan wants a phone call at 9 a.m.? If it's 9 a.m. and I don't have a ton of stuff to do service work wise, I'm going to start doing sales because who knows if I'm going to get to that later today. There was days before I had MVP where I wouldn't even get to the folders that had my quote sheets in there that I was working on, right? So the fact that I had something here in this system and it held me accountable was great. Even better, I would go ahead and use the best time filter. So as long as I filled this in, I would know who wanted a phone call in the morning, and I would call these people unquoted. Okay, so there's only 5. That's enough. I'm going to call those 5 people instead of calling all of the quoted prospects, right? Because you probably are going to have a lot more than this over time, right? That's just my testing account. So you're probably going to have more than this. If you called all of your quoted, you probably have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, maybe more. Why would you call all of those quoted people and then not call anyone else? How many phone calls do you think that you make on average per day? 120. Not enough. We got a couple 50s, 40s. I mean, it just depends. 50 to 60. I mean, it depends. I mean, just because one person calls 100 or makes 100 phone calls in a day and another person makes 20 phone calls a day doesn't mean that those 20 phone calls made weren't the best calls or they were bad calls, right? So there were some days where I would be making like 10 calls a day. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, I guess, right? You're busy doing other stuff. But the good thing is that worked well for me is even if I was only able to make 10 to 15 phone calls in one day, I knew that I was calling people when they wanted to be called using these filters. So I would call these 5 morning people. Well, once it becomes like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, do I want to call people that want phone calls in the morning? Probably not, right? Let's do our afternoon or maybe even our evening. Okay. So if I called these 2 people, I would then want to go ahead and move on over here to awaiting. And then I'm going to use the best time filter again. A lot of these here aren't filled in, they're all NA. So that means that I was not asking those questions. So I've got to figure that stuff out. But if you are only making 10 to 15 calls in a day, but you're using that best time filter, you're probably talking to a lot of those people. And that's fine, right? Whereas if we're just coming here to any of our call view pages, doesn't matter which one, whether it's any of your prospects or leads or customers, right? And you're just clicking the arrow to the left and moving your way down, you're probably going to have a higher call volume than those that do use the best time, but your talk time is probably going to be a little bit lower than theirs. Because when we're calling people when they want to be called, they're more likely to answer the phone. Okay. So for me, best practices that I learned quickly after using MVP is use the best time filter. In the morning, I just did the morning and I would call these people here. I would go to awaiting. I would then use my morning filter, do the same thing. It's blank. I would go to hot leads, see if I have any. Right? Is our morning filter? There's none. Okay, now let's come over here to our cross-sell opportunities. I would make sure I was doing those I was making at least one phone call in between each of my other tasks, my service work, whatever else I was doing, right? So that would help me get through more. And that was going to help me manage all of these call view pages evenly. We can't all just focus on quoted because if we're only focusing on quoted, what about our awaiting prospects? The people that we did quote, we haven't gotten a hold of yet. We definitely want to be calling those. What about our new leads, our hot leads, our leads, or cross-sell opportunities, right? We've got to find a way to get through all of these households, right? Try to at least call 5 to 10 households from each different section here in MVP every day. I mean, if you're not in charge of calling the leads, then that's fine. You won't go there. But a lot of people are in charge of working all of the households that are assigned to them. Raise your hand if that's you. Are you in charge of working all of the leads and the prospects and the cross sells that are assigned to you? You don't have like a telemarketer or a CSR helping you? Yeah, I mean, that's how it was for me, and that's okay. All right. Barbara asks, what are the API leads? So when I click on API leads here, I'm going to see a list of all of our API leads. An API lead is an integrated internet lead. So what that means is there's two systems talking to each other. For example, this was Quoting Fast or EverQuote or Smart Financial. It's a system that's talking to our system and sending us information. So it's sending us the leads that you're purchasing from them, and they're coming directly into your MVP account. Okay. You should have learned this in like basic training and stuff. If you don't know about that, reach out to our support team and we'll get you scheduled from some coaching, or reach out to your assigned success coach if you know who that is. Okay. All right. So we talked about where do we begin. We're really going to begin on what your priority is, really. That's what I tell everybody. I can't teach you to do exactly what I did because my priorities might be a little bit different than your priorities. It also is going to depend on where are we at in the folio and where are we at with our goals. That was a big deciding factor for me as well, okay? The closer we were to the end of folio, I was probably going to focus on things that might have been an easier sale. Cross sells seemed to be a little bit easier for me, and I could talk my customers into switching pretty easily as long as it was a comparable rate and our discounts were drawing their attention, right? So that will help you out as well. Is there anything that you guys do to help you focus and get through more of these households on whatever call view page that you're on? Is there anything that you guys do that you feel like is working for you, or are you just not really sure how to get through everybody, and do you spend more time figuring out what to do next than to actually be calling? What do you feel like? Where do you struggle with? Not really sure where to start, not sure what to do. Okay, that's all right. Anyone have a kind of a game plan of when you're going to go to quoted and when you're going to go to awaiting and go to leads? No one has like a game plan of when it's time to switch? Okay, so let's kind of talk about that. A couple of things that'll help you out. So best time filters help you out. Call through those, all of the ones that were morning on quoted, and then all the ones that are morning on awaiting, and then move your way around, and then you'll get to the afternoon. Okay, so you've got that. You can do that one. I know some people that will do, they'll go to their call view page and they will say that they'll call 10 people. So they'll get here and they'll call 10 people and then they'll move on to the next page, right? So they go to leads, they're going to call 10 leads. And then once they're done with those 10, then they're going to move on to hot leads or API leads or to awaiting and then quoted, and then our cross sells, and kind of keep the circle going. 10 leads, you do it that way. Personally, I have a really hard time stopping in the middle of a project, right? It's like, okay, you're going to focus on this for just a little bit, and then you're going to go to the next one and then do it that way. So I like to use the call filters. Those ones helped me, especially in the prospect section. I would use the best time filters and make my list small, and I'd accomplish that, and then I'd move on to awaiting. But for my leads, hot leads and API leads, since I had so many of them here, and a lot of these people I've never really contacted, so I don't know their best time to contact, things like that, I would do what I call power hours. I liked power hours for leads or like cold calling or working internet leads and stuff, because you have your eye on the prize of that end of that hour, right? But it was fun to do power hours within the agency because we were all dialing and trying to get the most dials or the most leads within that 1 hour or 2 hours if you want. So I would do it power hour twice a day at least. and one in the morning, and then one in the afternoon or evening time. And my phone was on do not disturb. I did not take any inbound phone calls, and I would just dial one after another for an hour. Okay. In that hour for my leads, I could get anywhere from 20 to 50 dials. But it depends on how many of those people I talk to, right? The higher my talk time, the lower my call volume. So we want to think about that. Just because your call volume is lower than your coworkers doesn't mean that your talk time is lower than theirs too. So obviously, if you're spending more time on the phone, you're spending less time dialing other households, which has pros and cons to it, right? Of course, we want to talk to people. We want to get their information. We want to be able to quote them and try to close our sale, but we also don't want to spend too long on the phone with them. Okay. So we've got those options. Of those ones, what would you do? What do you think works best for you? Or do you have a different method that you do? That's a good question, Spicy. You said, what if someone wanted a quote during your power hour? Do you just quote them? That's up to you. I always would, for me personally, I didn't like to quote on the phone because there's a lot to do. And I felt like when I was quoting them on their phone, I was losing their interest. And it could take a while. So I would just say, okay, give me a little bit of time to get together the best rate possible for you. Make sure I get you all the discounts and all that stuff. And I'll give you a call back. Are you going to be available in about 1 hour, right? If they seem if they're like kind of in a hurry or they're urgent or trying to get that quote as quickly as possible, that's what I would do. But what I would do is I would get all those people that needed a quote, that want it, and then I would go ahead and mark it as a hot lead. Call back today, mark it as hot, because when you click on hot leads, we have this callback column, okay? So when I choose callback today and I mark it as hot, it's gonna stay here, right? So let's do this. Unanswered, callback today. I'll just say answered today. Whatever it is that we're gonna do, right? So I'm not going to get out of my focus and my groove of these dialings, right? So I know that this person, like when I refresh, it said I was called back. I called them a minute ago. That's the last time I called that household. Okay. So I know that that's someone that I need to quote again today. That's how I would do it that way. Again, it's hot, so it's kind of standing out a little bit different than all of these other leads. Because if we haven't quoted a household yet, we don't really have a ton of that data that's affecting that algorithm. So I just leave them here on ranked leads, where we might run into a little trouble as far as trying to find them for sure again. So that's why I always make sure I do the mark as hot and do that so they come over here to our hot leads page. Okay. With my internet leads, it's different. It's up to you on what you want to do. I would kind of start the quote doing that copy to clipboard, get things going on the phone. But if they seem like the type of person that would be fine with me calling them back, that's what I would try to do as much as possible. Okay. Any other questions? What else do you struggle with in the follow-up process? Does that help you understand as far as where to go, what to do? My best advice for you is just make sure that you have a plan. You have a starting point and you have an ending point. And that's the biggest thing that people in this industry struggle with is they don't really have like that light at the end of the tunnel that they can see. And that's what I really struggled with for a long time is I just felt like I had never ending lists. I had a lot of people to work, so much stuff to do, and I just didn't see the end in sight. Raise your hand if you feel like you have those days where there's just no end in sight and it's super overwhelming and you don't even know where to start at that point, right? That's a really big thing in this industry. So in order to prevent that from happening, set yourself those goals, that power hour. We call 10 people and then we move on. Or I call all of the people that want a phone call in the morning, or I'm on the afternoon or evening. Those types of things, those small little goals that you're going to accomplish throughout the day, it's going to help motivate you and help you want to get through more of them, right? So for me, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working or I'm cleaning at home or I'm doing schoolwork, there's always a short goal that I can get to, and then I'll allow myself to have 5-10 minutes of relaxing, right? So I'm going to call for 30 minutes straight or 1 hour straight, and then I can take a 5-10 minute breather, or then I can go ahead and work on some marketing stuff or do those EOI requests that I have waiting for us, or whatever it could be. Okay, so hopefully that will help you, and it's going to help you not get burnt out and stay motivated. I think it depends on the type of person that you are, on the type of person that likes goals. So if I feel like I'm accomplishing my goals, I feel like I'm doing a little better, right? I'm a little bit happier, right? So if that's who you are, then little things like that are going to help you out. Whatever helps you feel like you're accomplished. Go ahead and find that, and then figure out how you can set yourself reminders or different types of workflows here in MVP. Okay. If you need help with that, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you. But that's really kind of all I want to talk about today, is just that time management factor. It's a really big thing. And staying motivated and trying to get through everybody on your call view pages is what's most important here. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about calling or anything like that? All right, something that you guys can also do is, if you click the Agency MVP logo on the top left corner, brings you here to the dashboard. Look at this call activity throughout the day. How many call attempts have you made for today, for the day total, right? But how many total households have you called? So this number down here might say 2, and this number up here might say 4, because this is the total number of households that you've called. We're going to count one household one time with this number, as well as these down here. But this total call attempts for the day are going to be the total number of calls logged. So if you've called the same household twice in one day, it would count for 2 up here, but 1 down here. Okay. So look at this to kind of see where you're at and what you're doing. And track that, right? Say, okay, so on Thursday, I hit 40 calls in a day. So on Friday, I'm going to try to hit 42 or 45 or whatever it could be, right? And then find your average, your weekly average or your daily average after looking at it for a week or 2 weeks. And then that can be your goal as well. Okay. Also, you can look down here at your quote activity, kind of see where we're at with your number of call attempts that you're logging. They should not be blank. This is a really bad example, but you can kind of see what you're doing. But use the sales activity. This is the one that really, really made a big difference in my calling. I learned that the average number of call attempts it was taking before I was seeing sales was about 12 to 15. 12 to 15 call attempts before I was seeing sales. Most people give up after the 5th or 6th phone call. Okay, so build your contact strategies to keep you calling. You don't have to call every single day, but keep them up to get to about 12 contact attempts, 12 to 15 within a month. Okay. All right, Brittany, it's a really good question. Brittany asked, do you recommend not quoting unless you get a hold of them? Like get the lead in, call, and then quote only if you're able to confirm info with them? This is a tough question. I think everybody answers it in different ways. It's personal preference. It's really kind of based on the agency. So let's talk about the pros and cons to them. How many of you guys, raise your hand if you feel like you get a hold of every single one of your internet leads that you buy? You get a hold of every single one of them within the first 30 days. Not many people do, right? I think their contact rate for internet leads is pretty low in the first 30 days. So if we're going to spend 15 to 20 minutes, maybe more for some people, quoting a household that we're never going to talk to, how is that going to benefit you? It might not, right? However, it might benefit you because if you're quoting them, you are confirming if it's a legit lead, if it's the quality of lead that you have agreed to purchase. So sometimes people have to do that, and that's okay. For me personally, in the agency that we were in, my marketing budget was strict. Our premiums are very low. So it was important that we quoted households as soon as we were buying those leads. So we knew if they were the quality that we were agreeing to purchase. Make sure that they were real people, make sure that they were legit phone numbers, and it wasn't like a high school kid filling out a form for the driver's ed class. That was pretty popular in my area. So we needed to return those. So that's why I quoted my internet leads when I first got them. I would spend 5 minutes at most doing my quote. If you don't care if you happen to purchase a lead that's bad, or your agent doesn't care, or you're on some type of agreement with your lead provider that you will not return any leads, then don't quote them. I think it just depends on your agency situation. Newer agencies, I think we're putting a ton of money into marketing, and so it's kind of hard to waste money on bad leads. So that's how I explain it. Am I going to tell you to do one or the other, or one's better than the other? No, it just depends. And I think time is money in this industry. So if we can spend time working on things that will get us sales, then that's what we really need to focus on. So that's kind of my runaround answer for that one. Hopefully that helped. My biggest advice though is, if you're going to quote internet leads when you first get them, before you've confirmed any information, do the fastest quote possible. Whatever pops up, pretty much, right? Apples to apples, whatever pulls through, whatever info we have on that lead is what we're going to quote. We're not going to sit there and do a detailed home quote and check every spec on 360. No, I will just do whatever pops up. I can change a couple of the things that I can tell, like maybe the style of home, is it a 1-story, 2-story, tri-level, whatever, right? Those kind of things. I mean, yeah, maybe change it, but there's so many other important things that you can be working on. Okay. My best advice with that one. Anyone else have any other questions? Something I get a lot is voicemails. Raise your hand if you leave a voicemail for every call you make. All right. Some people do, some people don't. When you get your robocalls, spam calls, and they leave you a voicemail, what do? A lot of people block that phone number so they'll never call it again. Or they listen to the first part of their voicemail and then they delete it. And then they're like, okay, yeah, I'm not answering that phone call again, right? I never thought about it that until I thought about it. Someone told me to think about it that way. If I had someone calling me, some sales call or whatever that I wasn't reaching out for, a lot of the times I didn't call them back. And then I would either block their number or remember not to ever answer it, or save it as a do not answer, right? So I'm not a fan of voicemails. If you're going to leave a voicemail, you need to make sure that you are happy and excited and really talking up your quote, okay? So very rarely would I leave a voicemail, and I only would leave a voicemail if I did a quote and I knew that that quote was great. Maybe I already had their deck pages and I knew I was saving a ton of money. Hey, it's Samantha at ABC Insurance. Just wanted to call and let you know about this quote I've done for you. It's come back great. I know for a fact that I can save you a great amount of money and also offer you better coverage, right? Something about that. You got to smile when you're talking. You got to be really excited about it. Keep it short, simple, and get them intrigued, get them to want to call you and hear back, right? If you are not in love with the product that you're offering, it's going to be a little bit hard. So you got to believe in it and love it and be excited about it. Okay. So that's my advice on voicemails. Probably don't leave them very much, if at all, only if it's something that's good, right? Spicy or funny. Have a mirror by the phone to make sure you're smiling when calling. That's a good idea. I don't know that I want to watch myself in the mirror all day, but I think it's a really good idea to help kind of train yourself. I like that. You got to act like they can see you. They may not be able to see you, but they can hear you on the phone. They can hear if you're smiling. They can hear if you're not. Try it out. Promise. You can tell. Have your coworkers test that out with your coworkers in your office. You can tell when someone is smiling when they're talking, right? And if you're happy to be in your office, you're happy to take care of your customers, then that will make them want to possibly switch, right? I mean, a lot of people are calling these 1-800 numbers, and these people are absolutely miserable, right? Like, you ever call AT&T and they, like, before you even start talking, they just sound like they just are not happy to talk to you? I mean, that happens. DirecTV is like that for sure. So, I mean, you just got to smile and be happy so they're happy to talk to you. And if they're your customer, they can talk to you more possibly. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I mean, I've got some time. So what questions y'all have for me? Don't forget to check out our Agency MVP members only Facebook groups. We've got some pretty great files in those groups that you guys can look at. So in a files section, we've got the scripts for leads. We've got some workflow templates. All of these are workflows. We've got an ultimate contact strategy. So this would be like a plan as far as like calling, how often you're going to call it a plan of attack, right? And so that's what this is going to be here. Let's open that up. So there's this right here you can find in that group. There's so many other things in this group. Lots of different things, lots of great posts in here and information and stuff like that. Agents sharing things that you will definitely be able to learn a lot from. So join that group. If you have any questions about anything else, please reach out to us and let us know. Don't forget that we do have our resource center. We do have a live chat. You can chat in with our support specialists. You can call, you can email, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Thank you all so much for joining today. We will see you next week at MVP Live, where we will be discussing reports. We'll talk about how agents should be using this dashboard, the quote and sales activity, to manage their staff's calling activity, see how often they're calling. We're going to talk about the call activity and how agents can find this report for every agent or every staff member in one place. So that'll be next week's topic. If you have any questions or things that you would like me to discuss, please let me know and reach out. My email is samantha@agencymvp.com. You can also email support@agencymvp.com. Thank you guys so much for joining. Everyone stay safe and healthy, and we will talk soon.